Welcome to another edition of Let's Play TNA 2016. I am aware that over the last couple weeks, TNA has pretty much taken a backseat to basically everything else. But I will try my hardest over the next couple of weeks to focus a little bit more attention on TNA. And that is also the reason why, if you noticed on my Twitter account, which by the way is in the description below, cheap plug, I put a hold on starting new series until I get a better handle on the current series, TNA, WCW, and Reliving the Territories with World Class. I am also aware that as of right now, the WWE 2015 series is still going, but will be ending probably sometime next week. Which means that TNA and WCW, as well as World Class, will get more attention, I guess, maybe fair to say. Because I am not going to start another Let's Play series, or how I would book it, until I get a better handle on TNA and WCW, and when I do, I'll let you guys know. Until then, there's just 3 of them. There is another one waiting in the wings, but I need to slow my roll and take my time to get there, because I'm rushing. So, with that being said, let me check one thing before we jump into it. Yep. Well, alright then. Well, alright. Let's jump into the final episode of TNA Impact before our next one night only, and that is TNA One Night Only Sacrifice. And like I mentioned in the last post on the website, I have a big surprise set up for Sacrifice, and he will show up at the pay-per-view, and in turn, I will have booked the main event for One Night Only in April. But either way, we got one more show before this month's One Night Only pay-per-view, and it kicks off with Jamie Jansen against Jade in the opening pre-show match, and Jamie Jansen actually gets the win over Jade in the first pre-show match of the night. Eddie Edwards defeats Brett Gaikaya in the second of 2 pre-show matches tonight. This just shows. I'll save that for the end of it. Actually, there was something I wanted to say there, but I'll save it for the end of the video. Now we move to the actual show where Mick Foley takes to the ring. That's right, the authority figure Mick Foley. I say authority figure Mick Foley in case you've forgotten, because it has been a while since, I believe, episode 13. It's been at least 2 or 3 weeks since episode 13. So let me just refresh your memory a little bit. On the last episode of Impact, Bobby Lashley, Abyss, and Rob Echoes competed in matches and won their matches to advance to a triple threat match tonight against each other, where the winner will go on to face Kurt Angle at Sacrifice this Sunday. And Mick Foley goes over that again, but Mick Foley is actually interrupted. And Mick Foley is interrupted by Adam Copeland. See, if you don't know the story behind Adam and Mick, Adam, or Edge, sorry, Edge and Christian are actually good friends with Mick Foley. And in real life, in the WWE, because of the Edge and Christian show, they got Mick Foley back in the WWE. Well, what do you think's happening here? Mick Foley builds up the main event and is interrupted by music we've never heard before. But the music that we hear is that... but after a bit, we understand that the music that we hear is that of Edge. And Edge makes his way down to the ring and looks at Mick Foley like, seriously? He says, Mick, what are you doing here? I was back there. And I saw Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, Earl Hebner, Mike Tenay. Mick, either we went back in a time machine and we're in the WWE in the year 2000, or I found my way to TNA wrestling. Well, Edge, this is TNA. Impact Wrestling. And from there, I let them have the segment. I just wanted to say that because, why? Babyface Edge makes corny jokes. Comparing TNA's roster with Kurt Angle and Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy and Mick Foley as the authority figure to WWE in the year 2000, it's an accurate comparison, and it's also a corny joke. What's Edge gonna do? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But he's here. Surprise! Did I forget about that? Did I forget about the fact that Edge was going to show up tonight on Impact 3 days before the pay-per-view? But either way, but now we step into the ring for our first match, and it's Tyrus against Micah, and Tyrus, of course, gets the win as he heads to his Heritage Championship match this Sunday against Mr. Anderson. And Tyrus, JB meets Tyrus on the outside and asks Tyrus if he's prepared for Mr. Anderson this Sunday and getting the opportunity to challenge for the TNA Heritage Championship. Anderson may have beaten everybody thus far, but he's never faced anyone like me. EC3 and Bram and Rob Echoes are handling it up top. Now it's time for me to handle it in the middle. Because Anderson is TNA's past. I am TNA's present. It's time to start over. And we're not going to be able to start over with Anderson as the Heritage Champion. That's why I'm going to take the belt from him this Sunday. And speaking, or well, nobody was really speaking of it. The segue sounded better in my head. Either way, Madison Rayne gets up against Jessie K in, I guess you could say, a knockouts match to get other knockouts on television. You know, knockouts other than Dollhouse and Gail Kim. Mind you, Gail Kim is featured on the show tonight, later in the show, against Marty Bell, as she prepares for Taryn Terrell this Sunday in Full Metal Mayhem. And now we move to the X Division as Tigre Uno does his best, cuts his best promo in a while. And yes, I'm only saying that because of the fact that he got a 52. And he issues an open challenge to anybody backstage. But the challenge is actually accepted by two men. And the two men that accept Tigre's challenge are Randy Summers, one half of Milk Chocolate, and Mandrews. And of course, Tigre Uno continues his unbeatable path through the X Division as he defeats Randy Summers in this triple threat match. See, the idea for the triple threat was, if Tigre Uno lost, then the winner would face Tigre at Sacrifice for the X Division title. Since Tigre won, neither one of these two will be facing him in the very near future for the X Division title. And I'm also aware that Mark Andrews, is actually a highly touted independent wrestler, especially that of his status in the UK, but right now, all he is what I need him to be, and that's a body in the X Division. Because I'm using him the same way TNA is. But either way, let's move to something more positive, and that is Gail Kim going up against Marty Bell in a very solid match. Better than the X Division match, actually. But either way, Gail Kim puts forth a solid effort tonight with a 56 in-ring performance, once again as she heads to Full Metal Mayhem this Sunday against Taryn Terrell. And Jeremy Borash meets Gail Kim outside the ring, much like he did with Tyrus, and asks Gail Kim about what's going to happen this Sunday when her and Taryn Terrell write the next chapter of their feud as being the first two knockouts to be able to participate in Full Metal Mayhem. And Gail just takes the mic and nonchalantly says, Sunday, me and Taryn prove why we are having the greatest feud in TNA Knockouts history, and one of the greatest feuds in TNA history. And on Sunday, we'll show why the TNA Knockouts division is the greatest division and the only comparative division for women in the United States, because we don't have fear. We only have hunger. Hunger to prove we're just as good as our counterparts. And it continues on Sunday. And now we move to the next match. As a way to bring things down, it's the Prodigy against Rocky Santiago, as the Prodigy's undefeated streak continues this week on Impact. But following his match, he meets with Jeremy Borash. And says, and Cole, he basically, well, actually, JB shouldn't have been in this segment, to be honest with you. JB shouldn't have been in this segment, to be honest with you. And yes, that first bullet point down below does say the announcing job for Josh Matthews was pretty weak, which is making me wonder, how bad is Josh Matthews in this game? But that's beside the point, because I want to focus on this. The Prodigy calls out Mick Foley and tells Foley that he wants real competition, and he's sick and tired of being referred to as a joke, because fans have been coming up to him and been messaging him and sending him on Twitter saying how he's a joke and he has no talent because all he goes up against is nobodies. So now I want a real challenge, Foley. And I want my first real challenger to be this Sunday on pay-per-view at one night only. Otherwise, you're sacrificing the safety of your employees, Foley. Yes, I know. Braun Strowman and Mick Foley have been doing this. I did this with Braun Strowman, and it works out better with a big guy like Strowman. Give me a break. Alright? It's a feud, it's an angle, it gives people TV time. Who really cares if I'm taking it from WWE and using it? Because I had Foley pegged to be my authority figure before WWE made him theirs. It just so happens that I took a little bit of extra time to get here that wasn't displayed with WWE. I had the idea first, they stole it from me. They're of course the ones that matter because they're on TV and I'm not, but just don't mind me. The next match, to get both these guys on television, I had Jeff Hardy go up against Shad Gaspard, and Jeff Hardy, of course, gets the win. I say of course because, once again, Jeff proved why he's one of the best in-ring performers in this company, getting a 79, which is still tops. Well, not tops for him because he's gotten better, but it's tops for the show tonight thus far. And just shows once again why maybe Jeff Hardy should be world champion and not Kurt Angle. But I'm guaranteeing you this. One thing will change at Sacrifice. With the direction of the Hardys, with the direction of the New Blood, and with the direction of TNA, things change this Sunday at Sacrifice. I promise you that. This is basically Anderson's two-up match for the pay-per-view against Crazy Steve. And much like JB did with Tyrus after his match earlier tonight against Micah, Anderson is met outside the ring following his victory over Crazy Steve by Jeremy Borash, and Anderson is asked if he's prepared for his match this Sunday against Tyrus, because it is by far the tallest task he's had thus far as champion. Anderson says, all this talk of TNA needing a new I have faced a lot of people in my career, and all this talk about the legacy of TNA needing to change and us needing a new start, a new beginning, that myself, Angle, Hardy, the Hardys are all a part of the old guard of TNA, and because we failed, it's time for the new guys to take over. Well, how I was brought up, you don't give up your spot. Tyrus, you want this championship? You want my spot? earn it. 'Cause I ain't giving you shit. And now we move to the main event. And the main event has Abyss against Lashley against Rob Echoes. And the winner is the Monster Abyss. That means that Abyss will be the one who goes one-on-one against the TNA World Champion Kurt Angle this Sunday live on pay-per-view at TNA One Night Only Sacrifice. Well, don't you worry about that little sentence right there, because I'm going to turn that off, because I don't feel like that should be actually relevant, especially if it does not affect the final rating of the show, which, by the way, is a 67 final rating, and it increased our popularity in 27 regions, proving that no matter what I do right, and no matter what I do wrong, TNA, I can always gain popularity. I think that's what I was going with. I don't know. Point is that it's very tough to not gain popularity in TNA. But the thing I mentioned at the beginning of the video that I said I was going to save to now is that up until a couple weeks ago, I did not have a long-term plan with TNA. I didn't have a long-term plan with half the roster. I had it planned out that I was going to go to a certain point and finish with Kurt Angle against Ethan Carter III. The fact of the matter is that left people like Eddie Edwards, people like Abyss, the X Division champ Tigre Uno, all without direction. So I pulled back and I took a second and looked around, and I figured out direction for the Prodigy. I figured out direction for the world title. I figured out direction for the TNA tag team titles. Yes, I may not have figured out direction for Bobby Lashley. I may not have figured out direction for every member of the roster, and that may be considered a bad thing in most cases. But fact is, a lot more people have a long-term plan. A lot more people have a future to where people can get invested in their future. Rather than, oh, this is what they're doing now, who knows what they're doing in a couple months. Who really cares? This is now. The reason why Eddie Edwards is on the pre-show is because Eddie Edwards, outside of him and Davey feuding with Lance Archer and Harry Smith, had nothing else. I had nothing else planned for the TNA Tag Team Champions. Nothing. Nothing whatsoever. But there is plans in the cards now. And the plans for Davey and Eddie kick off next week on Impact. They will be at Sacrifice this Sunday, but the long-term plans for the tag team titles kick off this Thursday on Impact, or next week on Impact. To find out what those plans are, and to find out what the surprise is, you gotta tune into the upcoming videos. Because like I mentioned, I know I haven't been fair to TNA. But because of the fact that other things are going away, I'm getting more time, and I'm gonna try my hardest to focus on TNA and get some videos out on TNA. Because Well, you can't get invested if I don't put videos out more than every 2 weeks. So as long as the support continues, the videos will keep coming. And like I mentioned, everything changes this Sunday at Sacrifice. So it's going to be a show that you don't want to miss. So now I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comment section what you thought of the video, what you thought of this episode of Impact. What did you like about the video? What didn't you like about the video? But if you don't want to leave a comment, you can always leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. Till next time. Later.